Combat is one of the most enjoyable skills to grind, and yet many people just don't know how to progress or what weapon to get next. So I'm making this video to show all of you how to efficiently progress through combat, and this guide is not a strict outline of what you must get, it's just a recommendation of what I think will help you most. And also, don't forget to subscribe. So firstly, let's go over all of the weapons and armor that you should get in order. Your first sword will be the Rogue Sword. You can get the Rogue Sword by talking to Jamie, one of the villagers in the hub. He gives it to you for free and it's a nice speed buff. So you'll want to keep it until you have another good source of speed such as a God Potion. But the one problem with it is that it deals very little damage. So that's why you want to quickly purchase the next weapon, the Undead Sword. You can get the Undead Sword by purchasing it from the weaponsmith for 100 coins. And while you're there, you can also purchase the End Sword for 150 coins, which will be useful later on for killing Endermen. Now once you've unlocked combat level 3 by killing graveyard zombies, you can purchase Rosetta's armor from Rosetta for about 4,500 coins. And you can find Rosetta in the hub just past the weaponsmith. Now once you've unlocked the Dwarven Mines, your next weapon will be a pickaxe. Why a pickaxe? Because pickaxes deal increased damage to Glaciite walkers. Kill Glaciite walkers until you have combat 12, so you can go to the End Island. Now talk to the lone adventurer, he should be standing right around in this area, and do his quest until you can buy the Void Sword for 200,000 coins. This weapon will grant you a massive damage buff, so you should be able to get the next set of armor, Ender Armor. Each piece of Ender Armor is a rare drop from an Enderman, so it might take a little while to get, but once you have it, your damage will be much higher, because each piece of Ender Armor grants 20 strength due to the Void Sword's ability. And now you can also get your first pet, the Enderman pet. They're only about 10,000 coins on the auction house, and they should provide a decent damage boost. For the rest of the Lone Adventurer's quest, you'll need to get your first set of equipment. Equipment is what is in these 4 slots here. You can get to that by clicking on your head in the Skyblock profile. The necklace drops from these Endermen, the belt drops from Obsidian Defenders, the cloak drops from Watchers, and you get the gauntlet from mining Ender nodes. Now once you have the equipment, you can equip it and talk to the Lone Adventurer again. And then you can complete the Lone Adventurer's quest by killing a couple Watchers. They should give you his bow, and then you can give it back to him. And now you can obtain your first bow by talking to the Pearl Dealer after you've already given the Lone Adventurer his bow back. And now the next weapon is the Aspect of the Dragons. It can be obtained by either killing dragons, or it can be purchased from the auction house for roughly 1.3 million coins. It requires combat skill level 18, so I recommend killing some zealots until you're a high enough combat level. And from that you should have also dropped a few summoning eyes, which you can sell to the bazaar to be able to afford the Aspect of the Dragons. Now your next set of armor will be one of the Dragon Armor sets. If you want to deal more damage, go for Strong Armor. If you want to have more speed, get Young Armor. If you want to become a mage, get Wise. And if you want to tank, get Old. All of these sets will be a few million coins at least, but if you have enough money sitting around, then you can also get a Superior Dragon Armor set, which will cost you about 40 million coins. The normal Dragon Armor sets have a combat requirement of 16, while the Superior Dragon Armor set requires combat level 20. Now around this point is when you can really start doing dungeons. So once you've completed floor 5, you can get the next weapon, the Shadow Fury. It drops in the bedrock chest for 15 million coins, or you can buy it from the auction house for around 45 million coins. And the next armor set is also from floor 5, it's Shadow Assassin Armor. You can either get it from dungeon reward chests, or from the auction house for around 20 million coins. This armor should be a major improvement to your last armor set. You can also upgrade your Shadow Assassin armor by crafting it with livid fragments to upgrade the rarity, or if you don't have enough money for the chest plate, you can replace it with a zombie soldier chest plate. For your next pet, you'll likely need different pets for outside and inside dungeons. For damage outside of dungeons, you can go for a tiger pet, and inside of dungeons, you can either use a wither skeleton pet for damage, or a baby yeti pet for defense if you're a damage class. But if you're tank, then you want the blue whale, and if you're mage, then get a sheep. For all of these pets, I would highly recommend a dwarf turtle shellmet. Except for the sheep, you can use a textbook for extra mana. Now for your next equipment set, the best overall for damage at this stage of the game in dungeons will be a bone necklace, a Shadow Assassin cloak, adaptive belt, and Soul Weaver gloves. You can get the bone necklace by crafting it with materials from floor 4, or for 16 million coins on the auction house. You can get the Shadow Assassin cloak from floor 5 dungeon chests, or for 3 million coins on the auction house. The adaptive belt is dropped in floor 2 dungeon chests, or for 600,000 coins on the auction house. And finally, the Soul Weaver gloves are dropped in floor 6 dungeon chests, or on the auction house for 5 million coins. For your next weapon, you can either get the giant sword or the juju bow, depending on whether you want melee damage or range damage, but they each have a catch. The giant sword costs at least 130 million coins, or it can be dropped from floor 6 chests. However, the Juju shortbow only costs 25 million coins, but it requires Enderman Slayer level 5. Your next armor set will be 3/4 of a Wither armor set. Now if you're going for melee damage, then get Necron armor. And outside of dungeons, you can either use a Tarantula helmet or a Warden helmet, but inside of dungeons, use a golden or diamond helmet of whatever floor you're doing. For mage, get Storm armor and Wither goggles, and for tank, get Golder armor and either a Mender crown or Reaper mask. Now the best bow in the game has an even higher Enderman Slayer level requirement. It's the Terminator. It requires Enderman Slayer level 7, and it's at least 600 to 700 million coins from the auction house. But if you look at the description, you'll see that it divides your crit chance by 4. So basically you have to get 400 crit chance to effectively use it, and I go over how to get this in my archer guide. Your next sword will be one of the Wither blades. The Hyperion, the Valkyrie, or the Estrella. The Hyperion is for mage, the Valkyrie is for melee, and the Estrella is for tanking. You can obtain these by dropping a Necron's handle from the floor 7 bedrock chest, and crafting it into a Necron's blade with 24 Wither catalysts. You can then combine the Necron's blade with a Jolly Pink rock for the Estrella, Laser Eyes for the Hyperion, and Diamante's handles for the Valkyrie. Or you can buy them from the auction house for around 1 billion coins or more. The best pets in the game for damage are the Ender Dragon pet or the Golden Dragon pet. The Ender Dragon will cost about 550 million coins, and the Golden Dragon will be about 1 billion coins, but you also have to have 1 billion coins in the bank for it to work properly. So overall, the Golden Dragon is slightly better, but it's a lot more expensive. Now the best weapon in the game for melee damage is the Dark Claymore. It requires Master Mode Floor 7 completion, and it can be obtained through Master Mode Floor 7 bedrock chests or purchased on the auction house for around 200 million coins. And it's not the best in every scenario, it's only the best for damage in certain scenarios. Now finally, Crimson Armor and Aurora Armor are the best armor sets in the game, but again, only for specific things. Such as if you're doing Kudra, for melee damage, you want Crimson Armor, and for magic damage, you want Aurora. But if you're doing dungeons, the Necron and Storm would still be better. Now this is not specifically a Slayer guide, but I will quickly go over some gear for different Slayers. For Revenant tier 1 through 3, you can use whatever gear you have at the time because they're fairly easy. But once you get to tier 4, you should probably have either Dragon or Shadow Assassin armor, and either an aspect of the Dragon or one of the Revenant swords. For tier 5, you should have possibly Shadow Assassin armor, but preferably Necron armor, with a Tarantula helmet or a Warden helmet. And for your weapon, you can either use a Reaper Falchion or a Shadow Fury if you have it. For Spider Slayer, if you have some decent gear, you should be able to do fine for the lower tiers. And for tier 4, Shadow Assassin armor and whatever sword you have at the time should be good enough. For Wolf Slayer tiers 1 through 3, you can use any decent gear you have. And for tier 4, you can either use Mastiff armor for tanking it, or Necron armor if you can manage to survive. For your weapon, you can either use a Pooch sword or a Shadow Fury. For Void Gloom, tier 1 is relatively easy, but for tier 2, you'll want preferably Necron armor, and whatever katana you can get, either the Void Walker or preferably the Void Edge katana. And also a decent Enderman pet. For tier 3, you'll need either full Final Destination armor or 3/4 Final Destination with a Reaper mask. You'll also need a Vorpal katana and a good magical power. For tier 4 Void Glooms, you'll need the same armor, but preferably with more kills and an Atom Split katana. For Blaze Slayer, you can refer to the guide in the description. Now let's go over some helpful items for combat. The aspect of the end is only 200,000 coins, but it allows you to teleport 8 blocks in front of you and gain 50 speed for 3 seconds. But there's also an upgrade. The aspect of the void allows you to teleport 12 blocks for less mana cost, but it gives the same speed boost. The 3 zombie swords will heal you for a set amount plus a percentage of your max health every second. There are 3 tiers: the zombie sword, the ornate zombie sword, and the florid zombie sword. There are 4 power orbs: the radiant power orb, the mana flux, the overflux, and the plasma flux. Each orb gives slightly better buffs than the last one. The Endstone sword consumes all of your mana, but in return you get a large damage resistance buff. The Wither Cloak sword makes you immune to damage for 10 seconds, for 20% of your max mana every time you're hit. The Ice Spray wand shoots a cone of ice and freezes all mobs in its path. The Fire Veil wand creates a veil of fire around you for 5 seconds, damaging all mobs in it. The Gyrokinetic wand has 2 abilities. The first one pulls all nearby mobs into one block, and the second one splits all incoming damage between you and 4 other players over 3 seconds. The healing wands heal you for a set amount every second. And finally, the Gloomlock Grimoire allows you to either trade 25% of your health for 600 overflow mana, or trade 300 overflow mana for 40% more health. And the first one has an extra soul flow cost. Now let's talk about how you can get combat XP as fast as possible. Early game, you can kill Enderman in the end, but if you haven't unlocked the end yet, then you can kill Glaciite Walkers in the Dwarven Mines. Or if you don't feel like mindlessly killing the same mobs for hours, then you can try Bestiary. During mid-game, you should be killing whatever the highest level of Revenant Slayer is you can kill, preferably tier 5. Late game, you can either do Enderman Slayer or floor 6 dungeons. And the best manual combat XP method in the game is to kill flares in the Crimson Isle. Now if you don't feel like manually killing mobs, then you can get some minions to do it for you. The best minion setup in the game is currently tier 12 Revenant minions with Flycatchers, Super Compactors, and Ever-Burning Flames. Now for your magical power, always try to have it as high as you can. Accessories will make up a large portion of your damage, and if you don't know what accessories to get, then you can go to Skycrypt, enter your name, scroll down to where it says your accessories, and it'll tell you the best accessories to get and in what order. But for your Power Stone, early game, go for Warrior for extra damage or Fortuitous for extra crit chance. And late game, you can either get Itchy, Bloody, or Hurtful. Itchy gives extra attack speed, Bloody's really cheap and good for damage, Itchy's cheap and also gives attack speed, and Hurtful's expensive but it's the best for damage. But if you want mana, then you can go for Sighted. Now finally, let's go over all of the upgrades that you should put on your armor and weapons. For your armor, early game you can reforge it to Fierce and late game to Ancient. Enchant it with all of these enchants listed. You can put on Hot Potato Books and Fuming Potato Books. Dungeonize and star it at this NPC in the Dungeon Hub. You can recombobulate them to make them a higher rarity. You can put gemstones in them at the Gemstone Grinder in the Dwarven Mines. You can put the Art of Peace on the armor for extra health. And you can give certain armor sets attributes. Now for melee weapons, early game, get the Spicy Reforge, and late game you can get the Fabled Reforge. But for magic weapons, you can put Heroic on for extra mana. You can enchant them, you can put Hot and Fuming Potato Books on, you can Dungeonize and star them, recombobulate them, put the Art of War on, you can put gemstones in, and Power Scrolls. Now that's going to be the end of this video. Bye.